Good space time, everyone, and welcome to a new episode of the Citizen Web3 podcast, a source for educational insights into the Web3 universe and your connection hub to the people that turn code and dreams into decentralized applications and reality. As part of our branding, we are adding to our podcast interviews from previous live sessions. In this interview, we are joined by Max from Basement Nodes. We discuss decentralized infrastructure, community building, ethos, and fear. We talk about the different kinds of fairy tales crypto can be, learning from life, and being in it for the tech. Finally, we touch upon values, privacy, marketing, and open source technology. If you enjoy the Citizen Web3 podcast, please share this episode to your favorite social platform and help us spread Web3 values into the universe.
I have no formal tech training. It's just kind of a thing I've done my whole life. Always breaking the family computer and fixing it.
Sometimes it's a bit like a fairy tale, sometimes it's a bit like a shitty fairy tale.
I learned everything I learned the hard way.
And it shows how open source is much more powerful, right? I mean, whether it's crypto, whether it's Linux, or whether it's anything else.
It would be nice to make money doing it, but I'm not going to change what I'm doing to chase that. That's just not really what I believe in.
Hello to everybody who is joining us. Now, I'm a bit lost because it's the first time we're trying a new streaming software, but it seems to be working. Now, you can only see my face. I know people, but I have a guest with me. And today we're going to have a session of Odyssey, Explore Citizen Cosmos Odyssey, exploring validators. And today I have with me Max from Basement Nodes. Hi, Max.
Hey, how's it going?
I'm good, man. I'm good. I hope that people are okay with seeing my annoying face all the time. So I apologize for that, people. But at least you'll be hearing a new voice of Max. Now, Basement Nodes, well, I was going to do a small intro, but then, you know what? No, I'm going to let Max. I don't know why I decided to take it from you. Max, do you want to introduce yourself a little bit? Like, what do you do at Basement Nodes and who's Basement Nodes? And yeah.
Yeah, so that makes it kind of maybe sound a little bit more official than it really is. That's just kind of a half joking name I came up with. It's only me. I kind of started doing this as a hobby or just to see if I could. I don't know. It's just been a crazy learning experience and just kind of seeing how far I can go with it. But it's nothing too serious. But I mean, I do try to do it properly. I try to do good on anything that I do take on. Obviously, being at home and having 2 jobs and everything, it doesn't always go as well as I plan. But yeah.
It's two apart from the validator that you do, or is validator the second one?
Yes, no, that's actually a side thing. So I'm actually a crane operator. I work just Monday to Friday. Pretty boring
Nice,
job. I don't do very much. And I do osmosis support on the weekend. So it's a
nice,
lot.
man.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Bro, this is really cool to hear. This is you know what? This is exactly why I wanted to have this little show, I guess, like a side show where we, explore who validators are. And yeah, I mean, usually we used to invite validators to podcast and we try to do the same kind of style interviews with them. And then we realized that not all validators want to be interviewed in such a manner. They want to be more relaxed, more talk about like yourself, some of them yeah, just a bunch of people, sometimes 1, 2, 3, whatever, that gathered together and they're trying to learn something.
Yeah.
And this is really cool to hear that this is so. But tell me how did you essentially got into that? How did it start?
So for a long time, I've been running my own Plex server, just a media server kind of thing. I'll share with family, friends. It's just kind of like having your own Netflix. So I'd been running that 24/7 for, I don't know, maybe 2 years. It was running on Windows. So I'd never touched any Linux or command line or anything like that. And then I started looking into it when I got into crypto. After I got involved with osmosis and just started kind of learning, I have to learn more to do support, right? So as I learn more and more, I'm like, well, you know what? I could probably throw a validator up. I managed to keep this other server up 24/7 for so long, almost no downtime, because I'd have little cousins and stuff hey, I can't watch this movie anymore. So I had to keep it uptime, keep a lot of good uptime to not get complaints that way. And then I switched that over to Linux and started running it on Linux and realized it's a lot easier than Windows. Like there's it's a lot more involved, but when you do have a problem, you can usually find many other people that will help you. Like the community is really great with that. There's always people that want to help you, and yeah, so it's just
Welcome to the
it's
dark
a
side.
yeah, it's just a big learning experience, and kind of the whole thing has just been really interesting.
And how long ago was that? That was you didn't say how long ago, or I missed it, but I don't think you said.
I think probably started getting into it maybe a year ago.
All right, all right. And what current networks does Basement Nodes? Let's keep on using the name. I like
Right
it. I
now I
love
got
it.
Nomic. I do the Nomic testnet too, and Juno and Dissenter, which is that's kind of, yeah, I don't know. I don't know why that one's still running, honestly, but why not?
How do you choose the networks? How do you come to choose them? How do you decide to?
Well, so I don't really have like a lot of money to be like, dumping in and buying into these like big, super busy active chains and stuff. So I just get involved with new ones, or just if I can get like a team delegation, basically. That's more or less it. Like I get community delegations, but I don't try to advertise. I don't like jump into chats and start like tweeting stuff and kind of pushing this out to ask for delegations, because I don't really, I don't know. I don't like to see that, so I don't want to do it myself, right?
It's interesting that you say that, because I think it's like one of the biggest obstacles to a lot of people starting validators, and I think it's like one of the biggest difference. It's a big difference, at least, between
It's tough. I
validators
mean,
who. No, go on, please.
yeah, like it's tough to kind of find that balance between like asking for, hey, like please support me, and just like throwing your name everywhere and kind of annoying people. So I try to just stay away from it completely.
I think three or I don't remember. I think 3 years ago, when the Citizen Cosmos Validator started, one of the guys who was helping me at the time to set things up, because I didn't understand how to do it in Cosmos, and I did do it like validation before on BitShares types networks, but then it was different, and I wasn't sure I was doing things correctly. So there was a friend who was helping me to set it up, and he said, one thing you should remember: don't be shy to ask. And I can tell you for sure, I am like that. It's only now. It took like over 3 years, and I'm still sometimes not feeling that it's okay to do it. Like, I don't even like when we add the line at the end, this content was created by our validator. If you
Yeah,
like it, please. I
yeah, I
hate
know what
doing
you mean.
that.
Yeah.
And but where do you think there is like a perfect middle ground for that?
I mean, I try to, like, that's kind of why I changed my Telegram logo and my Discord, and I did make a Twitter, which I kind of use, kind of not, just to have that one logo. You know, if people see it, they can maybe notice it going through that list and maybe pick me. But I don't like to push it more than that, so it's tough.
But I think I've seen you around as well, on in a few chats, right? With Jacob, right? I think there was
Yes,
one.
on Telegram, I'm in like every IBC group.
And how has it been? Have you been trying to get like delegations around with them? Not like you said, teams, right? And has that been working?
Yeah, so Jacob offered twice actually, and I did take him up on the second one. So he got me, like, launched me into the Juno set recently, and now even though he's pulled out completely, I'm still active, so that's cool. Um, the other team, the Dissenter team, has also delegated me. I can't remember why, it was a while ago, but so I just kind of keep it running because they did that pretty early on. Um, there was, I think, Arable or Acre Network, he did too, and I don't really know what was going on with them, so I kind of just killed that node.
So let me get it straight though. You're running the nodes from home, right? They're not cloud,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah,
Okay, and
yeah. It's all from
that's
home. The only thing I use anything not self-hosted for is just like my domain. That's it.
that's it. No, that's not serious. No, I'm joking. Man. That's cool, man. It's cool that you're doing it from home. This is actually one of the reasons I think where I wanted to speak particularly with you because, in my opinion, now I don't know what most people like think or how they view. I'm gonna use some cheesy terms here: decentralization in the bigger grand of things, right? But in my opinion, you cannot achieve any distribution or decentralization without infrastructure, regardless of which topic we're discussing. And coming to networks, I think that this particular topic of distributed infrastructure when it comes to validation, I think it should be like a 101. But a lot of people don't see it. I mean, I understand, and it's interesting that people like yourself who you say that are short on funds are probably are much more better off with doing it from home. Yet people don't are afraid to do it. Why do you think it could be the reason, like for people to be afraid?
Uh, it is intimidating. I mean, especially like if you've never used any Linux or done anything like this before, it can really be intimidating. And even if you have, it's different, right? Like it's not really something that you can learn um, from other places. A lot of the documentation is not really great. Like you can kind of use it, but if you don't have someone that's maybe done it before and found the issues to help you, you can really get hung up on a lot of things. The other issue is that you really need super reliable internet and power. Like if it goes down for any time and you don't catch that, you don't account for it, it could end up being really stressful when you're trying to recover kind of a whole bunch of jailed validators or fix other things like hardware failures, stuff like that. It's a lot. It's a time consuming side hobby, I think.
You want to share your experience in more detail in terms of like how did you set it up? How did you set up and I'm not talking about, of course, security details, but in terms of like the general overview of what obstacles you run into, how you solve them, whether it was like you said, the internet or anything else.
So I've actually been really lucky, and my internet is like bulletproof somehow. But I do have two connections just in case. If I don't even cover that with my commissions if I were to dump them all. So, like I said, it's just a hobby. But I was running on a really old, like a 4790K i7 uh, server that I kind of built at home. It was all secondhand parts, and I put a really high-end NVMe in it, and you can do like 5 networks on an ancient computer, pretty much no problem. But the only problem then is if like one thing fails, um, it's not going to be a good time. So I did build a new server that will never pay for itself. But so that one now I got many different drives, and they only have like maybe one or two processes each that run off that storage. So it's kind of separated that way. I do have that backup server if that were to really, if something else were to fail, I can kind of move a lot of it over to that one. So it's, I mean, so what you were saying earlier about kind of decentralization and people doing this from home, it is important, but it's also important to have like a diverse, I was reading this on some new chain put this up, and it was kind of interesting on their info page, to have diverse networks, not just decentralized, but diverse in that some of it is home gamers, some of it is hosted services, some of it is like even CEX validators and stuff. Having a little bit of each is a lot better than having all of one category where they're all kind of strong in some areas and not so strong in others.
I think Litecoin. I think I was talking 2 years ago or something like that to, or about a year ago. Doesn't matter. To the founder of Litecoin, Phoebe, co-founder, sorry, and she was saying that they are actually happy that the validators that they do and they actually approach. And what they do is they have like even validators who I think owners of businesses like local in wherever they're based, like to do with newspapers or something like that, or some publishing or editorial teams, because of course Litecoin is about content. And then they have like you say, normal normal, like people like ourselves, like yourselves, and it's interesting. Like it gives them, I guess. But I don't know to what extent this helps, of course. But yeah, I don't know. Have you ever looked at Litecoin?
Yeah, I read into it a while ago. Like the idea of it is interesting. I like this kind of small, simple, single use case, kind of like a micro economy kind of thing. I've never looked into the actual network part of it.
Yeah, no. It's not just to go into it. I was just curious because of the. It's like the validation is exactly like you mentioned. But you said, by the way, that you built a server that will never pay for itself. Why do you say that, man? Come on, let's talk about
Well,
it.
I shouldn't say that. I mean, I could over time, I mean, pay it off if I were to get more networks going, more delegations. But again, it's just a side thing, and I don't have the time or really the reasoning to go that hard into it. But I mean, I'm not saying it could never happen. Just it's not really like something I'm working toward.
What would make you change your mind? I'm curious,
Uh,
if
I don't
anything.
really know, honestly, if I got fired from my job. I just had to, but yeah, I mean, it's nice kind of to keep it as more of a hobby, and then you don't start to just dread doing it, right? Like it's just something that you do on your own, just kind of half as a learning experience for yourself, to kill time and to do something that you ultimately do believe in. So it's just a nice hobby to have, and I mean, I've turned or tried to turn hobbies into like more of something in the past, and it's not usually a good idea.
It's not, is it? I know what you
No.
mean, man. Usually it starts to take up all your time and all your money, and then you're like, oh shit, why did I start doing
Yeah.
this crap?
Yeah. And like 2 years later, like, why did I do that?
But I'm gonna be honest with you, man. I can relate to your story a hell of a lot because I mean I haven't been doing this all my life, and I'm not talking about even this project, crypto in general. And I guess part of me wanted to start this particular project, Citizen Cosmos, which is in a lot of senses I've been feeding it. It hasn't been feeding me. It's the other way around. And but one of the reasons was to prove that anybody can start like a Web3 business from anywhere. And I think like you have just like also proven that point in a sense that anyone from anywhere can really start a Web3 business. The question is how much they want to dedicate of time and effort
Yeah.
to it, I think.
Yeah. That's like I was saying earlier about like the basement nodes kind of brand, I guess. That's kind of why I started, because I was seeing like I'm not going to name anyone, but these big validators that say like we have a 20-man team and like dedicated data centers around the world, and like, no, you don't. And if you do, you're insane, because you don't need that. I mean, a lot of it is either lying, or it's not necessary, and they're way overspending. I mean, to a degree, like reliability and kind of decentralization on that scale is good, but I mean, let's be real. You don't have a 20-man team. So if I can do it, like probably a lot of people could do it. Like I said, the biggest thing is just having a reliable power and internet. That's the like by far the biggest thing.
I guess a lot of them start to expand their teams, and I can understand where they're coming from. Is where they become, but they start to provide different services. Whether it's like
Yeah.
teams that build some tools, for example, with us, it's producing content, running. I mean, but no, you don't need a big team to run nodes on even 10, 20, 30 networks. No, you can enough with 2, 3 people, you can do that. But of course, as soon as you start to provide services, I
Yeah.
guess that's what starts to eat. And with us, for
Yeah. If you're
example,
building apps and stuff. Yeah.
no, with us, it's a good example as well. This is what happened basically at one point. I mean, I guess now on and off, part-time, quarter-time, whatever, we really have a team of about 14, 15 people working in around Citizen Cosmos. But of course, you have like a designer, you have, content creators, you have community manager, da-da-da, da-da-da, da-da-da. And but what's interesting about it is that we are obviously not like a valid infrastructure validator in terms of we don't just provide infrastructure. But it's interesting, man, when you said doing it completely alone and doing it completely like, do you think you ever, let's say that that hobby suddenly, next bull market starts to grow and I don't know, overcomes all your predictions, which is, could happen. You never know. This is crypto. Sometimes it's a bit like a fairy tale. Sometimes it's a bit like a shitty fairy tale. But Would you consider expanding that ever?
Yeah, I mean, I would definitely consider probably getting like a partner, like just go 50-50 with someone and just maybe mirror each other's efforts or something just to kind of have some more resilience. And I mean, I don't work, I mean, I shouldn't say I've done it alone and do it alone. I don't officially work with anyone, but I do have like a small group of people that we kind of just chat all the time, help each other. It's a lot of other like small time validators. Everyone from Interblock, I don't know if you know them. They're all really incredible. It's Cold Chain and Luis and all these other osmosis kind of facing people. They're all like everyone in this network and all the networks really are super helpful, but that's kind of one group that I've really leaned on for a lot of assistance in the past. And I try to just pay that back where I can, but I'm not exactly on that level.
You seem so self-conscious, man, though, but it's good. I mean, because I think what you're doing is exactly why what a lot of ethos of crypto were set out for people to do. You know, like a person by themselves from their basement, running nodes because he wants to, not because he has to, and proving that it can be done alone and in a decentralized in that way manner, that it's one person, not one server, of course, but in this case kind of, let's just stick to the philosophical meaning of the sentence. But man, you should be more like, I think it's cool. I think it's like an example, man, of what a lot of crypto projects and crypto validators and infrastructures running should aim to be, a self-efficient like kind of project, a mission, whatever, that can be run by a small team from anywhere in the world. And yeah, man, I think it's cool.
Yeah, so that's essentially why I got into it. I mean, everyone kind of says like the old term, right? Oh, I'm in it for the tech. I mean, some people really are, and I think I'm one of those people. It's probably not as many as like I would hope that that would be that do say that. But it is all interesting. I mean, it's especially coming from like a blue collar trade. I like this is all everything I do is completely new. It's always like the simplest little thing. I'm like, oh wow, really? Like that could have saved me hours if I knew that months ago. But so every day, pretty much like I've been involved with osmosis and kind of the IBC stuff for 2 years now, at least. And like almost every day, you still learn something new all the time. So that's, I mean, beyond anything, that's the biggest benefit to me, I think, is just learning so much. Just whether it'll be useful in the future, I don't know. But it's fun. It's fun right now. It's interesting all the time.
I think anything can be applied, right? It's not a matter of
Yeah.
whether or not it can stick. It's a matter of not how to stick it.
Yeah.
you know, I mean, a bad sentence, I understand, but like a reality, like joking aside, it is like that. But you said also a second ago that, if you said the sentence, I'm going to try and quote it something like, if I knew this blah, blah months ago, it would have said me X or Y on blah, blah hours, right? Can you give an example of those things? Like if you want, with something you would to share, let's say there's another guy listening to you now, to the recording, like, or, down, doesn't matter, like on 1 year line, somebody's listening to this recording because this is actually like on a 24-hour. This is what I was talking about, that we started a new streaming format, and we actually have like a 24-hour TV kind of format running on YouTube. Where,
Oh,
yeah,
that's funny because about an hour ago, a guy that I've talked to for ages on here, he DM'd me and he's like, "Hey man, it's really nice to watch you on the stream. Like, I'm glad you're like as nice of a guy as I thought and stuff." And I was like, did I miss something? Like, what was this? What were you watching, man? Like I'm like, no, my call is in like an hour right now. He's like, oh, never mind. So yeah, I didn't know what he was talking about there.
I think he saw Basement Notes probably, and it still wasn't
Yeah,
on.
yeah.
But
And then
yeah.
he turned the channel on and he saw something, but it was not me.
But you see, there is. You're not the only one. That's what I'm trying to say, man. You see, there are a lot of people. You'd be surprised, man. This is like us. There is you, and there is a lot of the validators. I'm not saying all the validators. We try to interview are like that. Some of them are projects, and some of them I probably shouldn't say this, especially that this is going like live on a 24/7 thing. Some of them I have a sticky feeling after I speak with them. I'm gonna be
Oh
honest with
yeah,
you.
yeah, yeah. You're not the only
And
one.
yeah, man. And but for me it's a problem because I shouldn't, right? Because I'm kind of like this interviewer, right? Who like shouldn't I like be not be biased, but I am, and
Well,
I cannot
yeah.
help to. I'm a human
No,
being, and
yeah, I'm the same too. I mean, with our osmosis support, I mean, at some point you got to talk as a person, part of the community, rather than someone giving like some upper kind of knowledge. Because sometimes I don't really have that knowledge, and I got to go on my feeling. So
yeah, yeah.
it's yeah. Sometimes you got to do that.
And sometimes that feeling is very loud, and it's like, dude, these guys are
Yeah,
not like not believing in decentralization. Let's say like that, and some of them don't hide it, which is in my opinion respectful actually.
yeah, yeah.
But then when people start to put that flag on and like you kind of look at it and you're like, dude, why you guys like just say that, you're trying to achieve this and that. And then more people would probably listen to believe you. But man, let me come back to that question. So imagine a year. So this is going on this like live TV thing, going in circles, blah, blah, blah. So I don't know, a year down the line or half a year down the line, a guy's listening into this and he's like, oh man, if Max can do it, I can do it. So you said, that you could save hours of time by if you knew these and these things at the beginning. What kind of things are you talking about, man?
Well, it's like in general, just everything. Like if you've never used a terminal interface or you've never kind of used any Linux system, like for anything, it's all so new and it's so different than just like using your Windows desktop. Even if you have gotten a little bit into the back end, like using Windows Terminal for whatever little things. I mean, it's probably not commonly done on Windows because you don't need to, but so going over to a command line, all Linux, you literally just rely on whatever info you can find online. But there's little things that you wouldn't even know like to look for, like you wouldn't imagine that they could exist, I guess. So one little thing, this was like the other day, when you send like an IBC or you send a token to another network, it will actually be on the chain. It will be like IBC slash a super long number. So it's not the normal token name anymore. And so I thought for the longest time, the only way to find out that number was to send that token. But there's actually like a super simple function that's built into like every shell that you can just do that. So I didn't know that until like 2 days ago. And I'm like, oh, okay. So like it's just a million little tiny things that you're like, oh, what? Like that exists? Okay.
It's like, if you take if you're using the CLI and you're thinking, how the fuck do I write a transaction correctly? The trick is to go to an explorer, find such transaction, go to
Yes.
the details of the JSON,
Yeah.
have a look at it, and it's right there. And
Yeah.
there are so many little tricks. I agree completely. There are so many little tricks, and I for sure don't know all of them, but
Yeah.
there are a lot.
The one thing I tell, like if I'm trying to show someone that doesn't need like complete hand holding, I guess, to use the command line, I just say type whatever command and then help dash H or two dashes and a help, and it will like explain the whole thing to you 99% of the time. It might not
It's
work,
amazing.
but I mean it'll show you the info. You just got to figure out how to use it.
The might not work part is very real. Sometimes it
Yeah, yeah,
doesn't. You're
yeah.
like,
Usually you do it every possible wrong time, and then the last thing that you could possibly try, it's the right one.
that is so true, man. That is so true for I guess everybody who's ever self-learned Linux totally should understand
Yeah.
this because that is very, very fucking true, man. I'm still like that. I haven't been using Linux for so many years because when I started with crypto, I was still using Windows for many years, and only in 2000, I think, and 20 or 19, I moved to completely like to Linux, and I was like, no, man, I cannot be using Windows anymore at all. It's so difficult. And when you see a Windows computer, man, do you have the same thing when you see a Windows computer? Are you trying to use it? Are you getting confused now after
No,
Linux?
no. I
No.
still use Windows 10 desktop, and like I haven't reformatted it for like since it was launched, and it's almost completely unusable. It's so old, but it's familiar. It's what I've used my whole life. Um, but so the biggest difference I found was that like on Linux, if there is an issue or an error or something comes up, you can actually find that error. There is a way to dig in and find that error and find why it's happening. On Windows, it's like you just start like it's like a car. You just start ripping parts out and putting new parts in. Kind of load the parts gun up and start shooting. Right? You don't know something might fix it, and if you do fix it, half the time you don't even know how you fixed it. It just kind of. But yeah, so Linux is
It's
much
very
different
true.
that way. You can really learn as you're going and kind of know why you're doing what you're doing. So I like that
Hmm.
part.
And I think I also found that for Linux there is a lot easier to find the answers online. Like it seems that
Yeah.
it just
Yeah.
takes
The community
seconds.
is really helpful. It's just like all the crypto communities really like I'm part of a Garuda, like a Linux that I just started using. So their chat is like super, super helpful. The OpenWRT, if anyone does any of this at home, you probably use a like kind of a weird router setup like a PFSense or OpenWRT, something like that. Their Discord group is really helpful. There's people that always just jump out and they'll give you like professional high level advice most of the time. So that's a really big part of like Web3 and kind of just open source software in general.
Yeah, man, it is, and it shows how open source is much more powerful, right? I mean, whether it's crypto, whether it's Linux, or whether it's anything else.
Yeah,
It's
it's
funny,
all
man.
about just the people behind it, really. Like it's
Mhm. Absolutely, man, absolutely. And man, Max, I still feel though like I haven't got part of your story because I mean, you told the story like okay, I did this, then suddenly that, then suddenly that. But why, man? I want to understand the motivation. Why on earth does anybody that has two jobs, and I'm not, why? What is it that you believe in? What is it that motivates you to do it, man?
so yeah, I do really believe in crypto and kind of this decentralized concept of kind of people should have the freedom to do things like this. Like they're not like a lot of people kind of see crypto as this criminal thing or privacy even as like a criminal thing. Like why are you hiding? Why do you want to be private? Well, it doesn't matter why I want to be private with my finances, with my identity or anything like that. It's just everyone should have that freedom, I think. So I do believe in crypto and I do stand behind a lot of it like that. But a lot of it I don't think is really useful or necessary. And a lot of it is kind of just this hyped up, like pumped up thing. Like this validator might be getting $5,000 a day, and he's like, "Well, we're doing this and that, and it's very expensive, and we have all this infrastructure in place, and all this work goes into it." And I don't really believe a lot of it. So I kind of this is why I got into validating is just to show any of you guys can do this if you want to. I mean that's what crypto is all about. It's all about anyone can take part. Every person has an equal opportunity. Like it's by code. It's not anything else really. There's no one else that can affect that. Anyone can get involved in.
Bro, when somebody like asked me like, why do you want to like cover validator shit? Like, why do you want to talk to validators? I was like, well, I believe, sorry, I probably should sit close to the microphone. I believe, but I feel relaxed. So that's why I like having these conversations like this, more non-official. Like, it's because, well, I believe in blockchains a lot. I've been dedicating like 11, 12 of my years of life, sorry, 12 years of my life to that, to those things, regardless of which aspects of them, different aspects of them, because I believe in the same things as you. And what I came to realize is that, well, if I believe that blockchains are digital nations, I believe that this is how the world is going to change, then our validators are obviously the initial businesses of those nations. And I want to know, as a taxpayer, so to speak, where the fuck is my money going? Is there a person who operates those validators? Are they sitting in there in the basement, building a nuclear bomb, or are they actually, giving? Are they struggling and trying to pay off the servers, or are they, giving this money to charity? And it made me like kind of open up slowly to different people when I speak to them and understand that there are so many fucking different stories, and it's astonishing, really, really is. But it really does show you that I'm sorry to say that, but it really does divide, not white and black, but it really does divide between the people who are really doing it because of what they saying. I believe in blah 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 blah, and I don't mean blah 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 like to disrespect it. It's just could be anything, or I'm doing it because I want to make money, and regardless of what they say, it really shows when you speak to them. So it's cool to be speaking to somebody that I connect to on that level, on a mental level here, man.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it would be nice to make money doing it, but I'm not gonna change what I'm doing to chase that. So, that's just not really what I believe in. Yeah, to add on something you said before, um, yeah, so like the people you kind of said, well, I want to know what these guys are doing with their money and whatever. I mean, that's something that I feel that should not be accessible to anyone unless if it's public funding. Like, so for example, with the Osmosis Support Lab, we disclose all of our spending because it's public money that we're just asking for. So that's different. But when it's like someone's personal finances, I mean, unless you're already like suspected of maybe financing terrorism or like on the worst case, I guess, like anything like that, without some prior suspicion, I don't think anyone should be able to pry into anyone's personal finance.
Let me clarify what I meant. I don't think we went on the same page there. So this is exactly what I meant, because I believe that in those things, when we are talking about validators who are basically receiving taxes from the citizens of a nation, in my opinion, the government should be public and the citizens should be private, and that should be like that all over the world. And I hope that in blockchains, this is exactly what happens. This is why, in my opinion, for example, validators shouldn't even have the right to vote, but it's a different story. But like in my opinions, the validators shouldn't disclose by no means what they're doing with the money. But what I want to know as a citizen, as a taxpayer, is I want those validators, just like I want my government who's taking at gunpoint, literally taxes from me. Well,
Yeah,
they call it taxes. I call it
yeah,
stealing.
yeah.
In the same way, I want to understand. I don't want to report. I don't need a report to see like a financial, okay, so this is where our money went. Fuck that. This is exactly what I'm running away from. But what I do and
Yeah.
what I do want to know is that these people, regardless of whether they choose to be public or not public, like yourself, for example, to stay private, and that's absolutely cool. But what did they do? When I say what did they do with the money, it wasn't meant that I want a financial report, but what I want to understand. And for example, right now, you're saying, huh, this is what I do. I'm fucking trying to survive. And I think that that's pretty much what I meant, and
Oh
there's
yeah,
somebody
yeah.
else.
I agree there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. It's not, it's the same about, like when a government comes to me and says, hey, dude, you have to share 40, 50, 60% of your income with us. And you're like, why? It doesn't matter. We can put you in jail if you don't.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
like,
yeah.
and then they're like, well, but I want to know where the fuck this money is going, guys. I want to know, like, but I think I have the right to
Well,
know that.
yeah, and every time they tell you, it's like, oh, what? Why did you spend it there?
Yeah,
Time and
yeah,
time again, right?
yeah, 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 yeah. Absolutely,
Yeah,
man.
you gotta live with it.
Max, what about your setup, man? Like the last kind of thing I wanted to touch on. What about your setup, man? What do you think that all those fancy big setups, which I don't even understand how some of them are able, like how possible to afford for smaller validators, but there are different setups. There is like setup where we have one server, which is straight away the validator, and then we have like Sentry setups, we have Horcruxes, and there's so many different things you can add on to that, like 50,000 nodes if you want to each validator, I guess. But what is the kind of setup that you use it that you would say that it's easy to set up at home and that's something that's easy for anyone to repeat?
um, okay, so one mistake I made actually, like I learned everything I learned the hard way. So one mistake I made was with my first old server. I had a single account, single user account. I know they all tell you to make multiple users. Like if you're going to run maybe 2 or 3 nodes, put each one under its own user. I did not do that. That's a mistake. And then at the same time, even if you do that, each different node you run, I mean, a lot of people say don't run multiple nodes on one machine, but if you know what your machine can do, and if you're not jamming like 3 different nodes database on one drive or something, you'll be fine. It does suck if your whole machine dies, but I mean, you account for that in other ways. But so every node that you run on a single machine, you have to change every single port for everything, and that just becomes a huge pain in the ass. And so what you can do, you can run Docker implementations of them, but I find it's not the best way to go. So actually what I learned from Cold Chain is he uses LXD or LXC. It's just like how Docker is kind of a containerized app. LXC is containerized system. So you're basically your own like VM provider on your own server, and you can just spin up. They're really lightweight, like a new Debian or Ubuntu or Arch or literally anything you want. You can make like VMs of ARM 64, like a phone CPU, or you can emulate Windows, anything you want. It's super, super easy. So I just have I think probably 10 different Debian like kind of VMs running on this machine, and all the different nodes and validators are on different drives. So if one of them fails, I'm not like panicking trying to get all these things back running. And yeah, so all those different drives,
Nice.
keeping everything separated is really helpful, just so you don't have to like do workarounds, right? You just do the same thing. It's just like having 10 different computers, but it's on one machine.
Nice, man. Nice. It makes a lot of sense, I guess, this separation. I guess because normally, like you say, a lot of people they start to separate it with different
Or yeah, they'll
users.
get like 10, they'll rent 10 different VMs or something, and you end up paying like,
Yes.
I don't even want to know what those guys pay.
Yeah, absolutely. And what about like stuff like sentry nodes and like all those like signers? Do you think that's something that has to be added, or something that people?
It's helpful. I mean, I could definitely have benefited from some of that a lot of times, just because I will be testing something else and end up breaking like my entire network for 6 hours. Like now I'm just panicking trying to get it back up, and it makes it really hard to do some like major like maintenance or upgrade, any kind of changes and stuff to my network or to that actual machine. It takes a lot of pre-planning and moving stuff to other machines, or kind of just planning for like the whole job, so you don't kind of end up stuck halfway through and end up getting jailed on 3 different networks. So like having some external stuff would be nice for that, having some other kind of backups that like kind of redundant system entirely, but I don't quite have that yet. I only have one router, and if that router goes down, I'm like not happy. Luckily, it doesn't happen often. And usually when it does, it's because of me messing around.
I think people forget though that you have a window in each network which allows the validator like not to completely crash, because people think, oh my god, if my machine went down, that's it. Well, in a sense it is, but then you still have that window where you can fix whatever happened, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah. You just got to plan for it and hope you can do it. I mean, most networks, I mean, you have, I think the lowest one, like the lowest amount of downtime allowed on any of them is actually probably decenter, which I'm on. It's like 6 hours or something, you get jailed. And they got kind of a higher slash rate than most. Thank God their token is like not very expensive. I've maybe used the old slashing refund script a couple times. It does work. So thanks to Lavender 5 for that one.
and I've seen you, by the way, also around cyber, right? I think I've seen you in cyber chats as well.
Yeah.
Do you validate?
No, I was going to, but one of my friends kind of from these groups wants to, so I don't want to jump in on that. It's a crazy weird project. I don't understand like any of it, but then I got into their developer group, and all those guys there are like unreal, man. Like their GitHub is insane compared to so many other chains. It's so in depth. There's so much to it. There's so many layers to it.
Yeah,
And it's just interesting. It's just a strange and interesting project.
I'm glad to say that I wrote part of it. So
Nice.
if you go into GitHub, you will see the depths. My GitHub account, you will see that. But a lot of it has been what already I used to do ecosystem development for them. Those are my friends, like some of my the two founders, very good friends of mine, and there was a lot of projects that we used to do together before. So I was happy seeing you there, but I was wondering whether you validate cyber too. You should, man. You should, man. You should. It only requires a GPU, which is makes a difference, of course, but you should.
Oh
It's an
yeah,
interest
I
project.
do have a small GPU.
Ah, nice, 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 nice,
I don't know
nice,
how well it would do.
nice. Man, you should definitely try. I think because they also have a which is like a test net, which is like a space pussy. And if you're interested, you could try always first running that, and then because cyber is also a lot for like home validators, and in fact I think it's the chain with probably I would make that bet and that assumption that cyber currently has the most proportion wise house validators in comparison to any other chain out
Yeah,
there.
well, yeah, probably.
uh,
Yeah,
and it's great.
and I think like the documentation is kind of probably what helps that work so well, because a lot of the other networks, you go to read there and they're just like missing huge chunks of it. But if you go to that one, man, like the GitHub there is it's so big you can't even find half of it. You don't even know half of it's there. It's just there's everything. It's crazy.
Man, if you still haven't discovered probably like I don't know if you already discovered the parts of the about the philosophy and about the man, it goes deep. That rabbit
The
hole
big
is really
video,
deep.
the big long intro video.
Oh,
Yeah,
no, no,
I
no.
watched
That's
that not
that's
too long
that's
ago.
the top. But if you go
Oh, okay.
really, really deep, you will find some crazy, crazy shit, man. Like really, bro. It goes really deep. Like experiments between not experiments between species, no, but like proposed different experiments to understand plants or animals. Man, it goes deep, man. Trust me. It goes deep. It goes very deep. Anyways, man, Max, but what's if there was, I don't know, I mean, you kind of spoke about advice from all over. I've been asking you advice about that, advice about that, advice about that to start. Um, but if there was anything else, like one kind of thing, if I were to sum up what you've been doing and you've been saying, well, first of all, overall, has it been, I mean, you've mentioned several times it's a hobby, but I love it. I like doing that, it's interesting and keeps me learning. So first question before the other one, has it been overall a positive experience, and would you say yes, I would recommend to people to try and do it
Oh
even
yeah,
though it's
yeah,
difficult?
100%, 100%. If you're into kind of a techie kind of just, I guess to me it seems like a really obscure like nerd hobby, but it is really interesting. I think it's you encounter so many unique people and ideas and just kind of things that you might not learn anywhere else. Like I don't know any, I have no formal like tech training. It's just kind of a thing I've done my whole life. Always like breaking the family computer and fixing it. And I mean, that's kind of something I said, validating the whole time is the best way to learn is to break it and force yourself to fix it. It's, I mean, it's not the best way to learn, but it works. And I'm pretty good at ending up doing that anyway. Yeah, so it's, if you like to learn things and you do already enjoy kind of this type of thing, it's really, really a positive thing to do.
And a second and the last part, I promise, I will not annoy you that much more. What is, if you say that it is positive and it is something you would recommend, out of all those recommendations you already gave, which you said a lot of things today, what is the one thing? I mean, I know you could not highlight and choose one thing, but if you were, it doesn't have to be the one thing. Well, what is one of those things which you would really say to folks that want to do it from home? And I'm not talking about somebody who wants to start a super data center validator. We don't care about those right now. We're talking about like, homies, in pun intended, of course. But what is that one thing you would say, guys, watch out for that, or don't do that, or do this? Could be a couple of things, but you already said if you know.
Um, so don't be shy to ask questions. Don't be shy to, like, don't be discouraged from asking, because some people are kind of not the best helping or don't want to help, or because there's always going to be people that do. And I mean, so my kind of goal behind helping people in the way that I always have in all these IBC communities, or anywhere really, is one day that person can turn around and help someone else, or two people or three. And that's kind of how it grows. Like, that's how these communities grow. That's how they thrive. It's all about the people. So, I mean, I know in crypto, like, a lot of stuff doesn't make sense, like, price-wise. You're like, well, why did that token pump? Or why is that token useless when the project is so cool? Don't worry about that part. Find a project that you like, that you really believe in, and just get involved and just do good for it. The more people help, the greater the community will be. Ultimately, it's just, like I said, it's all about the people. So be
Nice,
that
man.
person, I guess.
I love it, man. I love it. There is, by the way, while we were talking, there is like a comment here in the one of the comments says Max is a Chad. Let's go, Max. And man, I agree. Like listening to you, bro, I totally agree. So dudes, delegate to basement nodes. I don't say it very often, but in my opinion, it's something that's worth it. So if you're listening to this, I don't know how you got to this, but if you have, dudes, delegate to basement nodes. I think you should. It's
Hey, yeah. And I mean, even if you don't want to delegate, I mean, just give me a message, and if you ever need help or anything, I mean, that's kind of why I'm here. That's what I do as a job. And I mean, I did it before I got paid by osmosis, and I'll probably keep doing it long afterward.
nice, man. Nice, Max. It's been a huge pleasure talking with you. Really, I haven't felt so relaxed talking to someone since I think I talked with Coney Daddy, which was like a year and a half ago. He kind
Oh,
of
yeah.
disappeared, but we had a lot of tequila and a lot of joints during the interview. It
Yeah.
was hardcore, but it's been a while since I had such a relaxed like conversation completely. So thank
Yeah,
you,
no,
man.
thanks for having me. It was cool. Like the first time I've ever really done anything like this. And yeah, it was cool.
Thanks, man, and thanks everybody for joining in. Bye, guys.
Yeah, see ya.
This content was created by the Citizen Web3 Validator. You may support our work by delegating to any of our nodes.